Everybody is talking about UFO crash retrievals this week. It's a huge topic online and a very important topic. So let's go over what may be the most important UFO crash retrieval of all time. And that, of course, is the Kingman, Arizona UFO crash retrieval. Because not only was a craft retrieved, but living beings that helped us develop technology. So let's talk about that. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, let's just get right to it. Oh, and by the way, this is just this is not a real picture. There's a bunch of mock-ups of what the Kingman ship may have looked like. Who knows? Who knows? I wasn't there, but either way, all right, let's just go to the article here, and we will also have some interviews. Let's go to an article with fewer ads on it. Oh, and thank you, Nico, for sending me this terrific article from howandwise.com. Kingman UFO crash. Man worked at Area 51, said alien survivor helped re-engineering UFO. In 1953, the Atomic Energy Commission conducted a series of powerful explosions at the Nevada test site known as Upshot Knothole. During the same period, witnesses reported seeing 8 unidentified flying objects engaged in a dogfight near Arizona. Historian and former museum curator Harry Drew spent 10 years investigating the incident and discovered that 3 of the craft had crashed on the outskirts of Kingman, Arizona. Drew did not expect to find evidence of the Kingman UFO and was surprised to learn about the 3rd crashed craft. Mystery Wire reports he researched old records and interviewed original witnesses to uncover a complicated story that was more intricate than the Roswell UFO crash story. I don't know about that. Roswell is pretty complicated, especially when you get into the cover-up and the men in black going around shutting everybody up. But yeah, I mean, if there's a UFO's dogfighting, there's multiple crashes, there's living beings, it is hard to get more complicated than that, really. In 1973, a retired Nevada test site technician named Arthur Stanzel revealed that he and his team were taken to a remote desert location in Arizona to recover a secret experimental craft that had crashed. The team found a perfectly intact 40-foot diameter disc-shaped craft with 4 alien beings associated with it, and it was shipped to Groom Lake, Nevada, where Area 51 was later built around it. So yeah, this is the foundation of Area 51, was the Kingman UFO crash. In his book, 7 Days in May, The Kingman UFO Story, Drew describes what happened to the 3 crash crafts. One was destroyed when it crashed into a mountain near Kingman. Another was found intact miles away from the crash site. And the 3rd one crashed next to a small reservoir after clipping a rocky butte. The military took the last unknown craft back to a Nevada base. He found military-issued food containers dating back to 1953 around the exact crash site, proving that military teams camped there. And let's go over to an interview. This is not with Arthur Stanzel. I'm not sure if there is an actual interview, video interview with Arthur Stanzel, but this is a researcher that spoke with him talking about him. So let's listen to a little bit of that.
And he claims, just briefly, the story goes like this. He was flown from Indian Springs Air Force Base to a civilian airfield in Arizona. I think it was Tucson or Phoenix. I can't remember. I'd have to look at the report. But at the airfield, he was met by an air policeman who escorted him to a military bus that had all the windows blacked out. He got on the bus, and he was told not to talk to anybody, to surrender all his valuables, which he did, and they put him in a cloth bag, put his name on it. A full colonel, after everybody was assembled, told them that they were going to go for a long ride, that they were not to talk to each other, that they were going to investigate the crash of a super-secret vehicle, which they couldn't talk about, and they had to take an oath. And when they finally got there, he thought they drove around for 2 or 3 hours. He didn't know they took his watch away. When they got there was a bright light on the bus, blinding bright light. And when it was his turn to get out, he says he couldn't see anything. This light was just blazing. And when they finally got behind the light, there was this 30-foot in diameter object shaped like a bowl, inverted upon a bowl with a slight rim around it with orifices. And he was told to determine the falling speed and forward speed at time of impact. And that was all. And he wasn't to ask any other questions about the object. He said that there were generators there were power cables going into the object, there was an opening, and there were people inside doing something. There was a tent pitched beside the object with remains of small beings, but he wasn't allowed to ask any questions and so forth. When he got back to the bus, they were all told, each person that went out and did their own thing, that they were going to go back and they were going to handwrite a report of their findings. They were not to type it. They were to call a number. It would be reported. That would be picked up, and they were sworn to secrecy. Now, that's just a peripheral summary of what this fellow told me. I conducted a character reference check, went all the way back from.
All right, there you go. I'll let you watch the full interview, and I'll link to it below. But really fascinating details about what Arthur Stangl experienced at Kingman. Let's see. Let's go back to the article. Drew claimed that he was able to document the crashes and the secret transport of the crafts to Nevada. He also asserted that one of the crafts was entirely intact when discovered. Despite the hotly contested nature of the story, Drew has evidence to support his findings. According to MUFON researcher Richard Hall, in April 1964, the first report of a crash near Kingman was relayed to him by a future Vietnam commander. However, it was not until June 1973 that the case of the Kingman UFO retrieval was brought to the public's attention by renowned UFO researcher Raymond Fowler. The incident involved an engineer, Arthur Stangl, who took preliminary measurements to assess the momentum of the crashed craft, which could prove useful in any reverse engineering attempts. Stangl, an Ohio University mechanical engineering graduate who worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, first made the story public. The craft was reported to have a brushed aluminum exterior finish measuring approximately 30 feet in diameter and contained 2 swivel seats, instruments, and display panels. The hatch was 5 feet high and 3 feet wide. Additional reports from the book Magic Eyes Only, written by Ryan S. Wood, indicate that the craft was embedded 20 feet into the desert sand on impact. 20 inches. There are varying reports about the number of ET entities recovered at the crash site. Some claim it was 4, some claim it was 1. According to Wendell Stevens, a retired U.S. Air Force pilot turned UFO researcher, the disc that crashed near Kingman was transported to Area 51 via a U.S. Army tank transporter. The recovery crew attempted to tilt the craft on end to facilitate transportation across the country, but abandoned this procedure when it became clear that was impossible. Telephone poles had to be removed when the main road intersected with unimproved surfaces or dirt roads due to the oversized load of the disc on the trailer. I kind of think that's funny. You know, the early days of UFO crash retrievals when they didn't know how to do it properly. You know, these days I'm sure they have a much more sophisticated operation. Read also, Bill Olhouse, a retired mechanical engineer, claimed to have been part of a top-secret program to design and build flight simulators used to teach American test pilots how to control flying saucers. He stated that the origin of the program came from the UFO crash at Kingman. So our, flight simulators where we train pilots how to fly our own UFOs came from Kingman. Area 51 came from Kingman. You can see why this is probably the biggest UFO crash incident of all time, right? The most important to the foundation of the control group and all that kind of stuff. Mr. Olhouse claimed, they're spelling it Uhouse. I've always been saying it Olhouse. Is it Uhouse? Mr. Uhouse claimed to have served in the Marine Corps and Air Force for a total of 14 years as a fighter pilot and flight tester of experimental aircraft. Later in his career, he worked as an engineer for defense contractors, focusing on anti-grav propulsion systems and flight simulators for exotic aircraft. According to his testimony, the first disc they tested was a re-engineered ET craft. Mr. Uhaus, as they're spelling it, was invited to work on a flying disc simulator by an unknown man. He was reassigned to Link Aviation and worked on building the F-102 simulator in B-47 simulator. He claimed that ETs presented a craft to the U.S. government, which was taken to Area 51, and the ETs were taken to Los Alamos. His specialty was the flight deck and instruments, and he met with an ET called J-Rod, who helped engineers with the craft's engineering. And if you're familiar with Bill's story, you'll be familiar with J-Rod. But let's hear from Bill himself. And, he's one of our best witnesses. And, I'm looking for the spelling.
As I watched the reason why I'm saying this is because the simulator wasn't actually functional until around 1958, where the simulator was actually operable. The simulator that they used, or the craft that they used to build, which is a 30-meter one, was the one that crashed in Arizona, Kingman, Arizona, back in 53 or 52. I think it was 53. That's the one they used. That's the first one that they took out to the test site. It was a controlled craft, that the aliens wanted to present to our government, or the USA. It landed about 15 miles from, which used to be an Army air base, which is now a defunct Army base. I can't recall the name of it. But that particular craft, there were some problems with, number one, getting it on the flatbed to take it up to Area 51. They couldn't get it across the dam because of the road. It had to be barged across the Colorado River at the time, and then taken up to where people go now, up 93. There were 4 aliens aboard that thing, and those aliens went to Los Alamos for basically, it was a sort of a test thing. They set up the Los Alamos with a particular area for those guys, and they put certain people in there with them, people that were astrophysicists, just general scientists, to ask them questions. The way the story was told to me was there was only one of them that would talk to any of these scientists that they put in the lab with them. Only one of the aliens. The rest wouldn't talk to anybody, or even have a conversation with them. First they thought it was all ESP, or what do I want to say?
Telepathy?
Mental telepathy. But most of that is kind of a joke to me, because they actually speak, maybe not like we do, but they actually speak and can converse.
As I lived them and researched them.
Okay, yeah. So if you're familiar with Bill's testimony, he goes on to talk about his own interactions with a being known as J-Rod. And it's a really cool story. I also encourage you to go check out my interview with Lockheed Martin Skunk Works engineer. I believe his name was Don Phillips. A really great witness who had friends, and he worked on the SR-71 Blackbird. He had friends, and this was back in the early 60s, that worked with beings on this technology. Are those the same 4 beings from the Kingman crash? Are there additional beings? I don't know, and he didn't have any information on that because he didn't work with them himself. But either way, his testimony backs up all of this other fascinating information. The Kingman crash is amazing, and it is really important. Yeah. In his 2013 interview, Mr. Uhouse discussed his work on a craft that was different from Bob Lazar's alleged reactor. He explained that the simulator he worked on had 6 capacitors charged with 1,000,000 volts each, which created a gravitational field that allowed the craft to lift off, and turn left to right. I'll link to the full article and you can read the rest at your leisure, but a really great article with a lot of juicy details about the Kingman crash. And, again, I think it's probably the most important UFO crash in terms of how it affected the UFO control group, the foundation of Area 51, living beings, helping us develop this technology. I don't know what became of those beings. Did they go home? Did they stay with us until their end? Are they still with us? Did they encourage other beings to come amongst us and work with us? Who were those beings? Were they good guys? Because they were interacting with us, right? Maybe they weren't held captive. Maybe they were free. I don't know. But if there was a dogfight among UFOs and one group was friendly to us, I wonder if the other group was also friendly or if it was a hostile race. Certainly seems hostile to the J-Rod group, but, again, I don't know who the good guys and the bad guys are, if there are such things among these cosmic conflicts that humanity seems to have become involved in. And I don't trust the UFO control group to have made the right decision on that. Obviously, they have more information than I do, but are their motives pure? I don't know. I have grave doubts about that. Nothing about the UFO control group screams high morality to me. So, but yeah, let me know what you think about this fascinating UFO crash. And hat tip to Nico for sending me this great article. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Thumbs up, sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media, Facebook, Discord, and Twitter. Links are below. You can become a channel member to support Cosmic Road in an even bigger way. Channel members often get to see videos hours ahead of everybody else. Also, you can buy some merch in the merch store below. I can say that. Merch store below. I got it. Meanwhile, there are plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.